Welcome to Season 3 of the Spotlight series, Don't Just Survive, Thrive. Season 1 was launched to help people through the pandemic by talking to a variety of experts about topics such as psychology, finance, and health. Season 2 focused on more work-related issues, including HR, marketing, and leadership. Now it is time for Season 3. Season 3 is centred on the IT industry, specifically tech startups. There are also career spotlights where I talk to senior IT people about the secrets to their impressive career journeys. My name is Nicholas Steele, founder of JJP Talent Solutions, an Australian IT recruitment company. For over 20 years, I've helped tech startups and innovative SMEs to attract, recruit, and retain technical talent. I hope you enjoy listening. I'm delighted to introduce Kshira Saagar. Kshira is Group Director of Data Science and Analytics at GFG, the parent company of The Iconic and various other organisations. He has been named as a top 10 analytics leader in Australia in both 2019 and 2020. Today, the spotlight is on Kshira's rapid career journey and how he achieved this level of success. Kshira, thank you for joining me on Season 3, Episode 3 of the Spotlight series, Don't Just Survive, Thrive.
Thank you so much for having me, Nicola. And it's such a cool number, 3,3. It's a good prime number. Oh, that's not prime. That's okay.
Awesome. So you're a numbers man, clearly. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Kshira. Tell me a bit more about your background and career history.
Cool. So in uni, I did a lot of math, stats, and computer sciences was my major in uni, apart from being an electronics and communication engineering graduate. And what I realized is I really enjoyed doing the math and stats bit. And I've spoken about it at other STEM conversations too, one of my STEM high school teachers, they spent a lot of effort in trying to show us how you can look at the whole world from a mathematical point of view. So he was a big believer that you don't have to believe in God, you don't have to believe in nature, but you can believe in math. That could be a religion. And I think when you're in an impressionable age, when you hear stuff like that, and when you actually are taught math in a way like that, I really took a liking to it. And that's how I took that as my major in uni. And I typically tell people 4 years of uni is pretty much a whole problem solving exercise in itself. You might major in a lot of different degrees, but at the end of the day, everybody majors in how to cross that very tricky age bucket where you're going to be more vulnerable and come out of it. So that's how it was. So a lot of problem solving. And then my first job out of uni was for a company that actually specialized in what we call data science today, what they call business analytics back then. And that's where my journey started. And my background has always been in math, stats, and applying that to solve business problems. So that's how it's been so far. And I've been lucky enough to be at the right place at the right time and find the right opportunities and the right people to work with. And I'm here today, still trying to solve those problems at scale.
Fantastic. So what attracted you to data science and analytics back in the day, so to speak?
So I tell everyone, the first company I joined, their tagline was "Do the math." So it kind of flows. So I'm like, yes. And when you're looking for the first thing, I don't think anybody, unless it's a really well-known company, you don't know much about it. It's what you read online. And so all I knew was they worked on math-based problems and solved the problems for businesses using math. And that was my only hook for joining that company. And I think once you start working on it, obviously, how you've seen these memes, what my mom thinks I do, what my friends, and that's how it is, right? What I thought the company was and what I think everybody has that moment of, this is not what it is. But it was still interesting because we were still solving a lot of problems for companies using data and math as the background. And that really interested me because one thing that appeals to me a lot more, and people ask me why I still stick in this industry, is because I like to solve problems. It could be logical problems, puzzles, whatever problem it is, like to solve problems, like to see someone have an aha moment and say, oh, that's so interesting. I didn't know that. It's almost like if I didn't do this job, I'd probably be a guy who go around finding stuff for people. If they've lost something, I'd be the lost and find guy you lose something, I'd find it for you. So that's probably what I would have done in a different world 200 years ago. So that's probably why I've stuck around.
Fantastic. So you love problem solving and numbers.
That's true.
And what has been the main highlight of your career so far, would you say?
I think the major highlight I would say is finding a lot of interesting new talent coming through who've not been able to like have a proper how do you call it? Who've not had a proper chance to do this course. Like these things, what we have these courses now called data science and analytics courses. We've not had them in the past. So a lot of people want to get into this field, have not had the proper training, have want to do it. And I think I would really call my career highlight as seeing a lot of people who I've mentored who've gone on to do much better, much smarter things, and who are helping businesses now. So I'd like to think that chain effect of me helping someone help someone else and them help someone else. I think I think that's probably what I'd call my career highlight is finding and working with a lot of interesting young talent. And I typically tell people I work with people right out of uni, people who've taken a break, people like that, because they've had some real world experience. They really want to do this. And I think that's probably what I would really pinpoint and say is my career highlight.
That's fantastic. And helping people and helping them grow
Yeah.
as well.
So it's like a recursive loop. You help someone and they help someone and then they help someone. And so you just pass it on. Yeah, I think that's what I enjoy the most.
Like that domino effect of,
Yes.
of helping people. And what have been the challenges, would you say, over your career?
I think when you work in data, I typically, if you have some time, I'll tell you a story, right? There's a famous Japanese kongan or a Zen story that says there were two people fighting over a stick, and the stick was one guy was calling this stick is really short, and the other guy was telling this stick is really not short. So basically, what they were fighting about was one guy says, if you call it short, you are belittling the stick, you're mocking the stick, and the other guy says, if I don't call it short, I'm being dishonest and I'm lying, which is also not good. So working in data is like that. If something's not performing, I can't say it's not doing well because then I'd be hurting people. But if I don't say something's not doing well, then I'd be lying. So that delicate balance of always making sure that you speak the truth and you speak truth to power, but you don't speak it in a way where people won't accept it because people can easily say, nope, I don't believe in it. So how do you get people on the journey? That's always a challenge. And it could be something as simple as how much sales did we have, how many new customers we had, to something as complicated as which new countries should we go into, what kind of markets should we enter. All of these questions are fraught with so many trade-offs and emotional touch points. So you need to be very careful about how you communicate it with a way that where the action can be taken, but people don't get offended. So that's always the challenge there. So human beings are the challenge pretty much when working with data.
So not the numbers, it's the art of persuasion, diplomacy, and being able to communicate that.
Yep, you put it much better than I did. Yeah, that's exactly right.
I'm more into words than numbers, if I'm honest with you. So your career, the speed of your career progression has been really very impressive. What have you done to really support that development, that career development?
I'm not sure if I'd qualify it like that, but thank you for it. There are three things I typically look for when I join a role or join a company. One is I really want to see if data is really in the company's DNA, by which I mean, do they want to use data because it's good to have, or do they want to use data because they really want to make a difference with it? So that's one qualifying measure for me. Two is I ask for considerable latitude and leeway where I can develop myself, I can develop a team, I get freedom to work on problems that I think are important and not just be constrained by what other people think it should be. And three is I get again some the ability to work with some really smart people and surround myself with some really amazing people. Because what I've seen is I've learned more from my team members and people that I hire than what I would learn from, say, conferences or seminars or even otherwise. I think working with really smart people, I think it's a mutual osmosis thing. So those are the three things that I've done. Always made sure that I work with companies that make data a priority, make sure that I get latitude to do things and work with some really smart people. And I think if you do that, like the flywheel effect of if you do a lot of that, you always get to move faster and you would bring smarter people in. And I think that's something how it's always worked for me.
So would you say those three are the secrets behind your success? Or is there
Yeah, I
anything
wouldn't call
else to
it.
add?
I don't think they're secret. They're pretty, yeah. You can call them a secret. You can call them a trick. You can call them uh, known unknowns, whatever it is. Yeah, those are pretty much things that I typically do.
Yeah.
And one thing I probably wouldn't call it a secret, but am a strong believer for having bias to action. So if something can be done, I always believe in doing it first and rather than talking about it. Like a famous story goes, if you want to paint this, if you want a wonderful painting, I think instead of talking about it, just build a wall or build a canvas, put some very basic painting on it, and then make it into a masterpiece rather than talking about how a masterpiece should look like. And I think that bias to action works really well in the data space. If you keep talking about building that amazing AI or amazing dashboard or whatever it is, I think people can talk about it for eternity. But if you build some basic stuff, keep churning it out, I think that's something that works really well.
Absolutely. And I think that works in any career or any element of life. Don't just talk about it, do it.
Yeah.
And if you could turn back the clock, what would you do differently, or would you do anything differently?
Yeah, I think the aspect of turning back the clock implies there are some regrets. I don't believe in regrets. It's what it is. It's done. I'm quite happy with how I've done things. But if the question is about what would I change now? Say, I think I'm not doing well and do better. Is I probably think I'd work a bit more with the community. I've already started doing a lot of that. I think STEM as a topic, math as a topic, all of these things are still people still believe in too much expertise with it. There is a kind of specialty associated with being a data person. And I think that numerical literacy and data literacy is something I'm very interested in talking more about, working with communities about. And I think that's something I've started doing a lot more now. Now that at least I can spend some time towards it. And I think COVID has been a really good year. COVID has been kind of a blessing in disguise where I get to work with students, high school students. People are like, everyone's on a Zoom meeting somewhere, so you can talk to them about it. And I think that's been really good.
Yeah, I think there have been some kind of blessings or a time to step back and reflect. And as you say, giving back to the community as well. So you've been talking to these students, and what would you say when you're talking to them? What skills are really essential for someone who's interested in a career in data?
So this is a standard question that all students or even high school counselors ask me. So three things, right? You know, three is my favorite number now.
How funny that you're season 3,
Yeah.
episode 3.
So three, yeah. And so three things I tell people. One is a willingness to learn always. And I give my example. So when I started my career, I used to work on a particular technology, and halfway through my career, I realized that that's no longer going to be relevant. Something new has to be learned. And so you it doesn't matter how new you are, how old you are. You always need to be able to learn stuff and not be stuck with it. So being able to learn, and more importantly, being able to unlearn something that you know, or willing to say, yes, I'm an expert in all of this, but it's no longer relevant. I want to move on to it. So that's very important for students, because students come with, what are the three things I have to learn? And I'm like, don't worry about knowing stuff. Just come with an attitude of, I'll learn something on the job. And that's really important. Two is a lot of common sense. And I tell people, being in data, everyone thinks, the common axiom that although it's called common sense, it's not that common.
Yeah.
When you try to solve a problem, instead of just going to the exceptions and everything, how do you solve a problem logically? And I think a lot of logical thinking is important. I think people can develop that. And the third thing, at least to be able to work in the data science space, I tell them you need an ability to code or an ability to learn coding. A lot of people, programming, as you want to call it, I think people don't want to get into programming because they think it's a complicated topic. And I think one thing that we really stress on high school students is, out of these three things, if you want to pick one that you have to develop in high school, pick programming. The other two is something that you can learn on the job. So if you can program, it doesn't matter which language, the constructs are all similar in all the languages. So learn some programming, be willing to learn something new, and have some common sense. I think those three things, at least with me, you'll get a job if you're. And I think a lot of people in the industry who I know, my peers, I think everyone values common sense, somebody who like raring to go attitude, wanting to solve problems, and can do it by themselves. I think that's exactly what you can ask for.
Fantastic. And overall, what do you think the future holds for data science and analytics?
I think one trend I've seen of late is it used to be a good to have department, a good to have function. Only the biggest and the most profitable companies had it, or like that's not the case anymore. Even a very small sized company has a data function, and it slowly will stop being a function and will be part of everyone's job, is how I like to think about it. So you will not, I'd like to believe, and I strongly hope that there will not be a data team. Everybody will be a data member. Like they can solve their own problems. We'll build tools enough where like a marketer can solve her problems by jumping into a dashboard, understanding what's happening. An operations person can solve her problem by figuring out how many people to bring into work that day. So I think everyone's job will involve some aspect of data, and we are already seeing that. And therefore, it doesn't have to be a specific industry. You can go into any industry. It'll just be a tool or a skill set that will give you the edge to be in that industry. Is how I like to think about it.
And so, would you recommend in the future having a data specific career? Would you say?
Yes, and I would say if you learn the data science or whatever it is that you want to call it as a skill set, it will be really good into whatever field you go. You will have the edge. So it's almost like back, say 15, 20 years ago, if you knew how to use a computer, you were more valued than somebody who didn't know how to use a computer, for example, or 25, 30 years ago. And I think it's going to be the same. If you know how to play with data, how to interpret numbers, how to understand standard stuff like mean and median average, stuff like that, you will have more value in whatever field you go. And I think that's how I want people to approach data, rather than saying I want to get into a data science role or a data. That I think that'd be much better.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights, Kshira. And is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything. And one thing I tell people is don't think about data as this myth or a tough thing. The myth about data is it's a tough thing to do. It's very complicated. You need to be a math wizard to use it. And I always tell people, look at me. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And I tell people, I'm a big fan of the Ratatouille movie. I'm not sure if you've seen it. And there's a famous saying in Ratatouille
Oh,
movie where
Ratatouille with the rats.
yeah, there's a chef that says everyone can cook or anyone can cook, and I believe anybody can do data. And I think that if you start taking that mindset, it'll stop being a problem and become an interesting challenge to do.
So that positive mental attitude, so to speak.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicola. Thank you very much.
I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review. If you're looking for career advice, your next career opportunity, or to grow your tech team, then please call me, Nicola Steele, on 0499 773 546, or go to our website, jjptalent.com.au. The Don't Just Survive, Thrive podcast is part of the Spotlight series, which includes the YouTube channel Spotlight on Software Development. If you want more insights into the software industry, particularly tech startups, then subscribe to the Spotlight on Software Development YouTube channel. Thank you for listening. Until next time.